So using the same conditional statement, there's three different ways that we can write it. So if you live in Sierra Blanca, then you live in Texas. Now we can write the converse of that. The converse of that would be if Q, then P. In other words, we're flipping the hypotheses in the conclusion around. So if we rewrite, if you live in Sierra Blanca, then you live in Texas, all we would have to do is flip those two and say, if you live in Texas, then you live in Sierra Blanca. Now, obviously, this isn't always necessarily true. If you live in Texas, you can live in Van Horn, or you can live in El Paso, or literally anywhere else. But we're not looking to make sense of these things. That's something that we decide later on. For now, all we need to know is that the converse flips the hypotheses in the conclusion. So after that, we can also write the inverse. Now with the inverse, well, the difference here is that we are going to negate the statements. And by negate, basically we are inserting words like not, or do not, or don't into the statement. So back to our original statement, if you live in Sierra Blanca, then you live in Texas. If I was finding the inverse, we could say if not P, then not Q. So if you don't live in Sierra Blanca, then you don't live in Texas. So all we did was just insert an extra couple words saying something like don't, or do not, or not. Now again, this isn't necessarily true. If you don't live in Sierra Blanca, then again you can live somewhere else and still be in Texas. But we're not looking for these things to be true. That's something that we will decide on later. The final one would be our contrapositive. Now with our contrapositive, we're saying if not Q, then not P. In other words, we are negating our statement and then we are flipping the hypotheses and the conclusion around. So our original statement was if you live in Sierra Blanca, then you live in Texas. If we negate that statement, or our inverse, if you do not live in Sierra Blanca, then you do not live in Texas, our contrapositive is going to flip that around. So if you don't live in Texas, then you don't live in Sierra Blanca. And now that one does make sense, because if you're not in Texas, then there's no way that you can live in Sierra Blanca, unless you live somewhere else that's named Sierra Blanca, but that's totally besides the point.